Hey, what is up, my Dial gamers? If you're planning on playing Animal Crossing New Horizons until the year 2061, you might run into a little bit of a snag, but it's not as big of an issue. It's just a little bit of an annoyance. This information comes from an article by IGN.com, and I will leave a link to the article in the description below. But the article says if you're planning on playing Animal Crossing New Horizons for decades longer, just be aware that the game will seemingly stop functioning in 2061. A Reddit post by user AdTrue4863 seemingly shows that anyone who plays the game for another 39 years by moving the internal clock forward will be forced to set their Nintendo Switch clock back to keep playing. A little pop-up in the game will show, and it'll say, please close the game from the home menu and restart after setting a date between January 1st, 2000 and December 31st, 2060. So at the very least, if you're in 2061, you can always just set your internal clock backwards. Hopefully Nintendo would come out with a patch for this in the next 39 years so we wouldn't run into this issue. But I wouldn't put it past them to just ignore it until then too. Then the article goes on to say that the next Animal Crossing game is likely on the way. It says a new entry arrives typically every 3 or 4 years, with the longest gap being 7 years between New Leaf on the 3DS and New Horizons on the Switch, because the Wii U didn't get Animal Crossing because that console was dead on arrival, pretty much. So they so they just pushed everything over to the Switch. I just found this article pretty interesting because you wouldn't think that you'd be playing a game like this 39 years down the road, but it's possible. You know, the 80s were 40 years ago, and people still play video games from that era, and so it's not likely that you're going to want to be playing Animal Crossing New Horizons in 39 years, but it's definitely possible. And I genuinely do hope that Nintendo fixes this issue before the year 2061. But it's also not a game breaking thing. It's just you have to set your internal clock backwards, and it'll kind of screw up your days and all that. And it'll kind of mess up the events that happen on certain days because the day won't be lined up with the actual day. So it would be a little bit of an annoyance, but it's not game breaking. Anyway, hope it's fixed at some point. Personally, I go back and play Animal Crossing New Leaf here and there, and also Animal Crossing Wild World. Like, I started a new village in Animal Crossing Wild World not that long ago, so I go back and play some older games. I think Wild World came out in '05, so that's 17 years, something like that already. So anyway, not an immediate threat 39 years down the road, but it's something to keep an eye on. That's all I've got for you guys today, and I will see you guys in the next video.